Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Vikas Gulati, founder and CEO of JamBox Games. I'm really excited to be here. We all love playing games. You guys make great games. And obviously, there is something about social, competitive, and multiplayer games. You look at some of the most popular games out there, whether it's Fortnite or PUBG. If you look at some of the casual games like the Mario Kart or the Ludo King, a lot of the games that we've played, we've always loved playing with somebody else, with our friends or with other people around the globe. So there is something more that brings the excitement and the thrill when it comes to competitive and multiplayer games. I also know what you guys are thinking right now. Why is this guy coming and presenting to us in a hyper casual conference? Right? Intuitively, we all tend to think that social, competitive, and multiplayer games uh, don't go with hyper casual. There are certain needs of hyper casual games, such as you're looking at faster turnarounds, you're looking at lower CPIs, you want to kind of look at maximizing retention and user values. But hey, who says all that cannot become in a competitive and a multiplayer game, right? If you consider some of the factors that influence competitive multiplayer games that make them so attractive, these competitive multiplayer games are highly engaging. We know people love playing these games with their friends, and they want to kind of keep coming back and play again and again, which makes them not only engaging, but then the retention values increases significantly. But one of the most important advantages of competitive multiplayer games is the formats, right? In a single player game, you're always constantly thinking about level designs. How do I make the game more robust with new levels and custom designs? But when it comes to competitive multiplayer game, it's all about competing with other players. It's all about the thrill of beating other players, and therefore the format actually becomes the content, right? So it's the format advantages. And we inherently also know that competitive multiplayer games, just because of the high engagement, retention, the monetization levels tend to be a lot more superior. So there's great amount of advantages when it comes to competitive multiplayer games. Obviously, when we look at it with the lens of hyper casual and hybrid casual games, there are certain drawbacks. These are, call them blockers, that exist. Why hyper casual and hybrid casual games don't get to be competitive and multiplayer. First of all, competitive multiplayer games tend to be very expensive to make, with much larger lead times. You're talking about anywhere between 4, 5, 6 months at the bare minimum. Then there's an inherent drawback of how do we code multiplayer games, right? So these are games where there's a lot of backend and server side coding is required. You need to kind of maintain the infrastructure, all the stuff on the cloud. Then this whole thing about maintenance of the games, right? How do you kind of keep coming up with different types of formats and duels and the ops side of the thing. And then last but not the least is just the time to market, right? Clearly, the need for some of the hyper casual games and hybrid casual games is how do you kind of go to the market really fast and make these games with very, very minimal effort and highly impactful at the same time, but with a very quick time to market. What if, and really the question really is, what if we were to take away all these drawbacks that exist on the left hand side and just keep the good side? Wouldn't that become a really, really attractive proposition for you guys, right? Given a choice, we would all love to make social, competitive, and multiplayer games. Just for those drawbacks, we don't get into it. We at JamBox have been kind of working really hard over the last 9 months to put together a solution for our developer partners that can enable them to bring competitive and multiplayer games in a short span of time. We call this solution as an Arena, and I'm going to talk you through some of the key facets of how Arena really works. Simply put, Arena is really the backend infrastructure of how we turn a single player game into a multiplayer game, and it comes in the form of an SDK. The SDK would really enable all the different content and formats that you can think about, right? You think about leaderboards, you think about tournaments, you think about duels, all the different formats that can come in a multiplayer format. The SDK enables that. And the best part is your single player version of the game, your core gameplay doesn't need to change a bit, right? Like nothing really changes on what you have. It really creates these formats on top of what exists as a core gameplay itself. The biggest advantage that comes along with JamBox Arena is really around how it improvises and enhances the game metrics. You're talking about the playtime, you look at engagements, you look at monetizations and user value uplift. You can expect pretty much the same what you would get with a multiplayer game. And we're going to kind of talk about with that with some examples and demonstration. But first off, how does Arena really look? On the left hand side of the screen, what you see is a single player version of a block puzzle game, very easily played. You put the pieces together, blocks together, and as you kind of complete the rows and columns and lines, you get the scores, right? That's how you play. In a single player version of the game, you would just keep continuing to clear more levels. The level gets more difficult. But here you have a multiplayer version of the same game presented in a dual format. You're obviously mashed up against with another player. Not only are you playing your own game, you can also see on the screen what we call as the PIP mode, where users can actually see how other players are playing the game. So, you're mashed up against a player, you're seeing your score on the left, and there's another score on the right, and you can see. And that kind of gives you a true multiplayer experience for the users. We call this the async multiplayer technology. To be perfectly clear, this is not real-time multiplayer, but you are mashed up always against real players, right? We call this giving your users a complete multiplayer experience of playing with other people at 1/10 the effort and 1/10 the cost, right? Challenging, and this keeps your players more challenged, more motivated, and then they keep coming back to the game again and again. So that's really the async multiplayer technology from Arena, right? In terms of formats, what the SDK really enables is pretty much everything that you can think about, and we'll give you a quick demo around some of these formats and how it really comes across live in a game. So you've got tournaments, you've got duels. We also have what we call as friendly tournaments. This is really the user generated tournaments, right? Imagine you guys like a game and you want to play more of it, but you want to play more of it with your friends or colleagues or people in your network. So what you do is you create your own tournament, invite your friends and ask them to participate and play with you. And this is completely user owned content. And now from a hyper casual and a hybrid casual perspective, this becomes a great way to even kind of get more users on board, right? So friendly tournaments is phenomenal from that standpoint. What the SDK also brings is clear capabilities on some of the other aspects which can enhance the user experience. We're talking about matchmaking capabilities, right? So how do we ensure that users are playing against better quality players? Like most hyper casual and hybrid casual games today would tend to kind of show and present gameplays against bots, which is not necessarily an optimal experience. It does give some experience, but it's not really an optimal experience. You want to play against with real players, and you want to play against players who have almost the same skill level as you, right? So then that's really the challenge that kind of comes through. And once you are playing with other real players, you want to see how you're performing. So therefore comes the leaderboards, and all the player history, right? Really about player records and match history, which can actually then outline how you've been growing as a player, how you've been kind of getting better at the game. You can go and see your past records. And this is all just to enhance the overall user experience in the game itself. This is how any Arena actually kind of looks and feels. So when you get onto the home screen, what Arena would do is introduce a new mode called Arena in this case, or it's called tournaments, whatever developers would want to call the multiplayer version of the game. So your single player version of the game remains absolutely intact. A new mode gets introduced. Once you click on that Arena call to action, that's when it presents into 3 different formats right now, and there's more to come. But Currently, you've got tournaments, you've got duels, and you've got friendlies, and then you've got leaderboards. Let me give you a quick demo of how some of these formats actually really work out in real life as you kind of play the game. So let me just watch the video. Yeah, so it's as simple as that, right? Like on the home screen, there's a tournaments button. You click on it. You're presented with a whole host of tournaments that are live. It's almost part of the live ops process, and we're going to talk about that. You have multiple tournaments which are live daily, weekly, monthly, and developers can create. They have the flexibility to create as many tournaments with all the rules around it. You click on it, you play the game, and you see your performance against other people towards the end of it, right? Here is how a dual version of the same thing kind of would work out, right? Again, in the dual version, again, you get into the tournaments, you want to play a tournament, you want to play a duel, you are done a real-time match against another player, and you play the game, your score versus the others, and whosoever plays the best really takes all the coins or the tokens or any virtual reward that a developer would define in this case, right? So, and really, yeah, I think what we really get absolutely excited about how it really brings a lot more value to our developer partners, right? So this is all about advantage developers, right? What Arena does is brings some of the best capabilities around in-game metrics that developers would expect from their games on in their games. So you've got engagement time, which shows an uplift of 33%. You look at impressions per DAO, which is really a reflection of monetization, a 22% uplift in impressions per DAO. You look at retention rates, which is absolutely one of the key metrics when it comes to user values and lifetime values of the users. We've been obviously experimenting with converting some of these existing games into multiplayer, and what we've seen is there is a huge uplift that comes through. The example that I kind of presented of Bug Battle, which was a bug kind of a game, the single player version of the game does anywhere between 33-34% day one retention. The multiplayer version of the game has been live for now over 3 months, and we've been looking at data for the longest time. It's absolutely incredible, right? You're talking about 46% day one as compared to a single version. Now, I'm not saying all games will tend to do that, but the fact that there is so much more content, so much more format available around for people to play around, your retention rates are likely to be higher. We've also seen a significant uplift in the game metrics of the single player version of the game itself. The moment you introduce these formats, people actually tend to play more of even single player, just because they want to know how to play the game better so that they can beat other players. So you see significant uplift even how people play the single player version of the game. So that's about 24% uplift in level start. There's a lot more that comes along with the arena or competitive, and this is really the top. I've given a very top line view of what's out there. We obviously spoke about all the competitive formats, and there's a lot more that we have in the work, but the current formats are absolutely incredible. But I do want to kind of touch upon some of the other key aspects that you can expect. One, around infrastructure. Second, about ease of operating and working with the SDK. And the last point is really about the live ops and how do you kind of manage the game in the multiplayer format itself. So first thing first, we've designed the whole package in a way where we don't expect developers to really do anything else apart from focusing on your gameplay, right? So your existing gameplay remains the core. That doesn't change. You don't need to kind of think about how much servers you need to hire, or what kind of data infrastructure you need to build, or what kind of cloud infrastructure you need. Really, the SDK does the heavy lifting when it comes to creating and managing the entire infrastructure. And everything is managed through this dashboard. You will have access to all data around how many people are playing the game, how many people are playing the multiplayer version of the game, how much time they're spending on it, between different formats, different tournaments, what kind of coin consumption or virtual entry consumption which is happening, how much they're winning. All the data and stats that you would want to look at, it's all there, provided for you once you kind of integrate the SDK. The second big highlight or the important highlight is around live ops management, which means that you can practically create, manage, and own the entire format stuff from a dashboard. So there's no more backend coding required around how will we manage all these tournaments, right? You're presented with a very simple, easy to use tournament and dual play structure. So you go out and create these different events, whether it's a tournament, whether it's a duel, whether it's friendly matches. You define the rules, like what kind of currencies, what kind of fee, how many players. All the stuff is pretty easy to navigate. So which means that you have a live ops management tool that is there for you to kind of take care of your game. And last, but one of the most important things which is there for our developer partners is also how we get the SDK integrated, right? And we've really spent a lot of time trying to make this absolutely easy for you guys to kind of work with the SDK. It's just like as simple as how you work with an monetization SDK. You guys work with whether it's Iron Source or AppLovin or Unity. It's pretty as simple as that, right? You've got about 200 lines of code, which is all takes care of everything. And we promise you no gameplay changes required, right? All you got to do is just work with the SDK, and SDK takes care of it. In most of our examples that we work with and cases that we work with, our developer partners have been able to come up with a solution in less than a day with the entire SDK integration and UI, because SDK has pretty much everything baked into it. A lot more games are coming, which are going to be, you will see hyper casual and hybrid casual games, which are going to be multiplayer and social. We talked about we gave you a glimpse of Bug Battle that's been live for about 2.5-3 months, and is responding really, really well with the users. We've got over now 80,000 DAUs on that game. We've got Helix Crush, which is a pretty old game, 2018, 2019, and phenomenal amount of user base. But we are bringing that back with competitive multiplayer version, so you'll get to enjoy that. We talked about the block puzzle game. There's more and more games. Like we're now working with close to about 30 odd studios who are working with us in integrating this solution into their games and trying to take advantage of all the things. Last but not the least, a bit about JamBox. I know JamBox is relatively new and you guys have not heard about us, but I wanted to give you a quick overview of who we are and what we are trying to accomplish. We're a Singapore-based venture-backed company. We're actually backed by Ludus Ventures. They're based out of Turkey. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about them. Very respected VC in the gaming world. We've grown really fast. We got our seed round last year, and since then we are already now 20 people strong team based out of Singapore, Vietnam, and India. Obviously, the biggest thing that we've been working on is our competitive gaming platform. We've got the entire infrastructure of converting the single player games into competitive multiplayer, but we've also got a rewards platform coming up very soon, which will allow users to kind of be part of play to earn economy, where the more you play, the more you can get to earn. So that solution is part of our technology offering. So far, we are primarily established in Asia. We've got a whole lot of developer partners that we work with in emerging Asian markets, India, Vietnam, Indonesia. But we would love to get into Europe and work with some of you guys, right? There's no reason why we wouldn't want to kind of work with our developer partners in Turkey, in Russia, in Israel, everywhere. We would want to take this solution. We do have a best-in-class publishing toolkit that we bring to our developer partners. So in case you want us to kind of help you with publishing, we can. Though I would say it's completely up to the developers to make a choice whether they want to just purely work with us on technology, or they also want to work with us on publishing. And then, we're a core team of just gaming and technology guys. Most of us have had like 15 to 20 years of experience, and we are kind of revolutionizing the way how game experiences are delivered to users, right? We're growing pretty fast. We would love to grow even faster. So look forward to working with you guys here in Europe. One thing I would definitely want to highlight is we are hiring. So if you are interested in working with us, you've seen what we are talking about in terms of technology and what solution we bring. So if you guys are looking for a change, or you want to kind of come on board, give me a shout out, right? I'm here at the conference. I would love to have a chat with you guys, and look forward to really working with you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'm going to be around. Feel free to give me a buzz. Thank you. Hi, I'm back. I'm happy to take any questions, any points. If you've got anything for me, feel free to ask.
Yes, please be brave and ask Vikas all in chat or directly in Q&A. So you are welcome as you wish. So until we wait for the rest of the questions, the first question is what is the evolution of multiplayer and competitive games during the pandemic? Uh, did players become more aggressive because of pandemic or something else? Please tell us.
That's a great question. I don't know who's asked this because I can't see it on the screen, but that's a terrific question. So, obviously, gaming has always been inherently social, right? People have always loved playing games, but it's always more fun when you're playing with your friends or your family or with your people out there. Now, pandemic, in at least from an Asia standpoint, I can tell you that was a big turning point, right? People were confined to their homes. They didn't have a lot of place to go out to, and there was like partial or full lockdowns happening, and people wanted to kind of get an avenue to get more entertainment going. Now, by default, gaming came out as a very huge component of entertainment, and people wanted to play with other friends. So there are a lot of games that we saw across Asia, which actually kind of took the world by storm, right? There's a game that came out of India, which was called Ludo King, right? That kind of took the world by storm, almost 500 million installs. That's a game that you kind of play. It's a simple board game that you play with your friends, like when you were kids. There was this Among Us that came through. There's Dream League Soccer that kind of became inherently popular because people were playing a lot of football sitting out of their home. So, in terms of evolution, I would say, competitive multiplayer games have always been very, very popular across the world. But the pandemic, or the times in the last 1.5 years, has kind of really given a huge thrust to this phenomenon. I can especially kind of talk about what is happening in Asia at this point of time. If you look at markets like India, Indonesia, Vietnam, most of the new games that are being coming up or are coming on even outside Google Play and Apple Store on the platform, they're all multiplayer. They all have social component. Um, Again, for all the reasons that I kind of talked about in my presentation, right? There is a lot more monetization, a lot more stickiness into the game. So I would really recommend and urge you all to give it a shot. The constraints of making multiplayer games are going away. It's a lot more easier now to kind of build it out there, and with the product that we've got, you can convert your existing games as well. So yeah.
Great. The next one from Ravi Vyas. Given Facebook recent results, stock tanked, and the rise of CPIs, how do you see the mobile gaming industry evolving?
That's a good one, Ravi. So the way I look at it is, and this is, I wouldn't say this is peculiar to hyper casual, but the game economy is really tied into two things. You've got the CPIs, and then you've got the user values at other end of the spectrum. Like in the hyper casual category, there has been a bit of an obsession around CPIs, and it's no surprise, right? Like last 1.5 years has seen actually a huge shift in the industry, right? The first the Apple IDFAs and its impact on Facebook and what has happened to the CPI is everybody's aware of it, right? The CPIs have been trending up for last I would say 6 months to a year, and it's becoming increasingly very difficult. The only option that most developers now have today is to be able to kind of work on the user values and retention and try and make the game more sticky. At one end of the spectrum, I know hyper casual is moving towards hybrid casual, so that's a good step up where people are kind of trying to get more engaging games, more engaging products being built out. But the other way is you build more meta around your games, right? If you can make your games more interesting and more engaging by building features that as multiplayer, competitive, what you're really doing is solving that problem. Either you can come up with more intense and high production values with more lead time games, or you could come up with more multiplayer games which can involve users a lot more. So I would say the future remains, it's headed in that direction, right? You move towards more feature driven games with great production values, or you get into multiplayer socials, whichever way, but you need to increase your LTVs and user values.
Great. Great. And thank you, Vikas, for the opportunity to ask you questions after speech. I think as a speech, as the answers were really useful. So thank you again. And I think we can go on. So please stay with us.
Thank you very much, really appreciate.